Alright, I've finished constructing this model and the necessary out structures and terrain that I thought was going to be having to interface with any new structures we put together. Some of this wasn't entirely necessary, but most of it was because of the scale of the project and some of the future plans, both on the first floor and at that second floor level. And as I went along adding these pieces, I was glad that I did, because there's so much going on, and I want to make sure that whatever we add going forward actually brings all of this together in a nice, functional, and aesthetic way. And so this, the first in probably a series of films, is really just an introductory type of thing, introducing some of the challenges that we're going to be facing, and some critical pieces that probably have to be decided fairly early on. So I've gotten all three of these floor plans, the lower level, the mid-level or the main level, and the second floor level, constructed, and everything agrees within about an inch or two, which is kind of necessary to make sure that we understand how everything's being put together. And going forward, we'll be concentrating mainly on what we'll call the second floor and the first floor, even though this first floor, because it extends down to this lower level. So, but mostly we'll be looking at this, and obviously the covered patio isn't right outside of bedroom 3, but outside of the lower level. But for the sake of clarity, we'll just work with this level here in terms of this first floor, since we're starting from a kitchen design standpoint anyway. Part of putting together all this stuff was making sure we knew exactly where these different levels were and how they interfaced with one another. And all of this can stay, and we're going to be building around that and hoping to make these places or these spaces work together. And while this is a short film, there will be a number of things that I'll be trying to cover, kind of unrelated, but I can't help but at least address a few of the things that I saw while I was out. We have already talked about whatever happens up here. We know those stairs, I haven't even modeled those because we knew that we were going to be changing those to be code compliant. They're too steep right now. From out here, one of the first things that struck me, and I'll just cover this stuff randomly. For one thing, I noticed on one of my photos shows this piece here, there doesn't appear to be any kind of flashing between the siding up here, the new Hardy siding up here, and this piece of frieze board here. It seems to me there should be some sort of Z flashing in there, because otherwise you're going to have to either caulk that or rely on I don't know what to keep the water from going back behind that board. So that was one thing I saw. And these are not the best photo representations. But the other thing, this piece doesn't even really need to be there. I'm not sure why that was even left. But that was one of the things I noticed when I first came. And obviously you have a big tree out here that hides a lot of that, or obscures some of that. But the juxtaposition of these two pieces, they don't seem to work that well together. The higher pitch slope here, and so they're competing for power at the front, and so hopefully we can get that a little more balanced going forward. So while our go-in project is this first floor addition to the kitchen and the family room, it's going to be impossible to look at that without looking at this at the same time, and it actually begins to occur to me it may be impossible, not impossible, but a lot more challenging to construct those as two separate projects. And I'll try to show you why going forward. But I do have some exciting ideas of how all of this can look together, and I'm eager to try those out, but I just want to show you some of this early stuff right off. So first, as a matter of course, I checked these member sizes, these 2x10s at 16 inches on center over the garage, and cantilevered here and here. and these ones that are under the second floor and over the kitchen and family room, since we're going to be dealing with suspending those or doing something to handle those. And these are 2x8s at 16 inches on center. And these are the labels. 2A, these are the ones that are underneath the bathroom portion of that second floor, and these are the ones that are under the bedroom portion of the second floor, since those are different loading requirements by code. And so, as expected, the ones over the garage and over the lower level underneath those bedrooms on the main level or the mid-level, those all pass. Even the lowest grade of them passes at that span. But when we come to the second floor, these J2A, these are the ones under the bathroom, which require a little heavier loading. And I select this a program I use to check and size these members. And I check either 2x8s or 2x10s at 16 inches on center with a single ply. The only thing that's really going to pass is 2x10s. If you check this off and get rid of the ones that are not passing, only 2x10s will technically pass, crossing over that kitchen and family room area. And you can see if I go to 2x8s, which is what exists up there, and it exists at Southern Yellow Pine, but none of these species are passing right here. They just don't pass 2x8s. Now, if we were the one way to get this 2x8 situation to pass without increasing the depth of that diaphragm, we could double the 2x8s, and that means either removing that floor or removing the ceiling, or it's not going to be painless. But to get those to pass, and I think they're going to require them to pass in the new plan. And I know that probably wasn't too clear, but just so you can understand, or try to understand, if I go back and specify what the best case scenario of what you have, which is Southern Pine as those floor joists, 2x8s, 16 inches on center, and 1 ply. These are the results we get for under the bathroom areas, and you can see that its failure here is by about 400 or 500 pounds per joist, and other failures down the road, and that's for the ones that require the heavier bathroom loading. But even the bedroom ones are still failing by pretty substantial numbers. So, but that being said, and you being aware of that, if you are not inclined to replace them, it may be possible to double them, or replace them, or add 2x10s, or whatever the solution might end up being. If you're unwilling to do that, or unable to do that, I will have to double check, but it may be that they will allow those as existing members. However, I kind of think they may not, because we are thinking about increasing the size of that bathroom, which would be changing the configuration, adding loading to some of those joists, and adding loading beyond what is passing or what is allowed by the code. So my tendency is to think that they're not going to allow us. They'll allow them to stay there, but I don't think they'll allow us to change that floor plan and add any new loading to them. So what this means in terms of the construction, in terms of the design, is that has to be accounted for up front, what we're going to do with regard to that, and what it would require to get it completely in code and nice and rigid for your own use going forward. I mean, you should probably feel more flex up there than really you ought in a bedroom area. But what it would require then is removing all of that and just dropping new ones in, new 2x10. I would just drop 2x10s across the whole thing rather than trying to double up 2x8s along each one. There's probably going to be some mechanicals, wires and stuff to deal with. So there's a lot to consider with regard to that, and I'm sorry to say that. And additionally, with this second floor piece, another thing that concerns me going in, so yeah, one of the things that concerns me about this room is that apparently these members were taken out. You know, a person might think those were just decorative, but I'm not an engineer, but it seems to me that those were probably as structural members, I don't know if they did this project, this renovation project, removing those and moving the walls around under a permit. But when you look at this situation here, which I don't quite understand, I don't know if they've removed all these, but all these pieces up here and all these pieces down here, I have a feeling that those were pretty integral to that structure. And maybe that's why those 2x8s were passed. Maybe this was even done under a permit. This was back in '97, so I don't think there's going to be records. But it's just something that is a concern to me, them having taken out these big pieces here, because we've already got this roof under stress with this skylight framing, and they removed those, and I don't know about that, but I can't know for sure. In any event, any new design is going to have to pass both their code requirements or anything that they're going to require, and maybe this might even require some sort of engineering at this level because of these issues. So I just wanted to mention that it's not going to impact our early design and how some of the things that we want to look at this first floor, but it will have an impact going forward. I just want to mention a couple other things with regard to this in this film, with regard to where we are right now. I did want to take a, because I knew we were going to be designing this up here, I did want to take a quick look at what kind of area that we had to work with. And that bedroom down in the lower right corner, bedroom number 1, that is 305 feet including the bathroom, 305 square feet including the bathroom. And this is the footprint of that bedroom, that big front bedroom here. So there is room to expand this here. We still have to get a hall through here, but I think there's room to expand that bathroom at that level. You see the first floor walls underneath here. And this is a section through here, and this orange is at least ostensibly the joist that you would have to double. You wouldn't have to extend that doubling all the way over this area here, out here in the back side of the closet, but to make that completely meet code, you'd have to replace or double those ones through that area there. And then there's a case of how we're going to beam this off to open that up for the kitchen expansion here, whether there's a drop beam or whether that's pushed up into, here you see the beam here, whether that's pushed up into the wall. I don't think even with the biggest beam pushed up into the wall that we can do that 30 feet or so that's across there, 30 feet from here to here, with a single span. I don't know that yet, but we'll be looking at it going forward. And I don't yet know how much space we're going to need, how much we're going to increase this. Is 13.4. That's from the face of that fireplace. It's closer to 12 from the face of the hearth. I don't know how much space we're going to need to create what we need in this kitchen. The kitchen is probably going to be the driver of how wide this becomes. But that is as far as I am, and now I'm going to begin actually putting some new pieces on this first floor and seeing how this impacts the whole thing. So I will be in touch shortly enough. Thanks very much.